Are you struggling to ride your colt all the way into the corners of the arena? Or do you haul your mature horse somewhere and all of a sudden he's picking spots in the arena where he's quite certain there's a boogeyman going to jump out at him? Well, stick around. I'm going to show you how I work through teaching my horse how to use the entire arena. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to Becky, Amio Horse Training, and this is ride number 9 on Bonnys Six Shooter. If this is your first time coming and watching one of my videos here on YouTube, I sure appreciate you being here. And if you guys have been following along this whole time, I thank you very much. And if you haven't seen some of Shooter's videos, I would really encourage you to go back and watch some of his groundwork videos and the evolution of his start, because he's been a little bit of a tougher cookie to crack, and he's a pretty good example of persistence and consistency and follow through. And this is ride number 9 here, and my intention with this ride is to go back to the arena with him, but I want to go through my pre-flight checklist here in the round pen. Now, I had just started getting him really good at picking me up off of a lick tub, and so I wanted to reiterate and practice that particular skill again here when I first got on. I try to get these videos from start to finish for you guys. I know some of this stuff can be really boring in the beginning, but I want to show you that this consistency is what makes a really solid colt. Now, I have Jeannie here videoing me today, and so it's not with the Pivo, so she'll be able to get every single thing, where sometimes we lose some of the information when the Pivo doesn't quite track us all the way, and you guys have heard and seen my frustration in previous videos where they've gotten cut short because the Pivo just quit following us. So I'm going to go ahead and start this ride with bending his head around back and forth. Once I got on, we walk off quietly, and I'm going to just work on these emergency stops and stay consistent. Every single ride is started this way. He knows what to expect. I'm not going to randomly get on him and just start swinging a rope or go try to chase down a cow. That's something that's going to come along much later in his career when we start really seeing what this colt can mentally handle. But at this point, we're going to do the exact same things we've been doing on him since day one. And it's going to be working on the emergency stop at a walk, trot, and lope. I moved through the gates pretty fast on him simply because he's already had a solid warm-up of groundwork. So it's not like, oh, I'm loping him without any sort of, serious trotting or anything here. I want you guys to know that. Now, he's already wanting to stop for me here, which is fabulous. He's wanting to take that inside hind up underneath him and stop and come around and bend back around for me. One thing that we have observed in Shooter since day one is that he really kind of gets sulky in this round pen, as most horses do that are started in the round pen. They get bored in here and you have to get him out. Now, I'll refer you back to another ride where I went out to the pasture with him, and he really opened up and really stretched his legs and had a ton of forward. And he also has quite a bit of forward when he's in the arena too. So I always go back here though to make sure of what we have. It's a nice controlled environment. I know there's really solid good ground in here, and we're very aware of our boundaries with this rail and all. Always go back to a place where you feel comfortable when you're trying to check and, do that pre-flight checklist that I keep talking about. I work really hard on the turns on the forehand in this particular warm-up, and I do them to a fault. Now, with Shooter, he gets crabby. We've all seen him get a little crabby if you pick at him a little too much. So all I'm doing is using my rail here to take my right rein and hold it kind of straight up, and then I'm going to take my right leg and push back towards that hip to kick that hip over. And we did turns on the forehand on our very first ride with the help of our person on the ground. And if you didn't see that, make sure you go back and look at that first ride video to see where he's at. Now, we see him here really not not want to back up. And one way to keep them from wanting to go forward in our turns on the forehand is by doing this backup. Turn on the forehand, back up, turn on the forehand, back up, and that is going to help our side pass. Now I'm going to go ahead and change directions with him and go back the other way and work on it the other direction. I don't drill on this too much. 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 is about it for me, especially on a colt that doesn't really like to be picked on, because we can piss him off really quickly, and then we just kind of have a miserable animal that doesn't want to work with us at all. So, same thing here, going to the right. I'm going to take that left rein, which is the rein that's on the rail, kind of go straight up with it. I don't want to bend his head all the way around. I do not want him to turn back the other direction. And I'm going to take that left hip and push it over. Take my left leg. I'm going to put my weight in that left seat bone and then ask him to take that step over. As soon as I feel that inside leg cross underneath me, I'm going to release. The release is the most important thing here. If you need help with this, have somebody watch you. And when they see that inside hind take that step underneath, you see that hind white sock, when it reaches underneath, that's when he's doing the turn on the forehand and he's reaching under with that inside hind. And that's what we're looking for, okay? You need somebody on the ground to help you, and there's nothing wrong with somebody helping you on the ground to tell you what the footfall is doing, okay? I want to encourage you guys to have somebody helping you there. Okay, Jeannie was able to get us working this gait, and what I want you to remember is that working the gait is about progress, not perfection. It's about proper foot movement. Ideally, in a perfect world, we want to hold on to this gait the whole time. In a judged event or in an opportunity to work the gait when you're handling cattle, you need to be able to keep your hand on that gate and get it closed in a hurry. That way, cows aren't getting loose. Now, all of that turn on the forehand work was to get control of this hip and get that one last step over out of him. And I'm going to step off of him and release the pressure. But this is a huge improvement from what we had been doing in previous rides. That's how quickly we can work the gait on these horses. And I have lots of videos on my channel showing how to work the gait. Now, I go into the arena here. And I get back on him. I take this opportunity to get on him from his right side. Remember, everything is practice. If you look at every ride in the beginning like this is practice to relearn, reteach, redo the same consistent maneuvers we've done over and over and over again. That is where we get these horses confident and comfortable and trusting and really allowing us to guide them in whatever direction we want and do whatever technique, skill, or maneuver we ask of them. So Shooter is pretty honest in everything he does, and he's not afraid to show his emotions. And he dislikes this side of the arena. Not really sure what's going on the other side of those trees. Sometimes it's other horses turned out in the pasture just south of us. Sometimes a bunny or a bird flies out, or there's a pheasant back there. But for whatever reason, he gets scared of this particular side, especially this corner, and he decides he's going to get out of there in a hurry. And instead of getting in a big fight with him, I mean, back in the day, I would have, over and under, gotten a big old war with him, jerked on his face a bunch, right? We've all seen that person that does that. That's just not how I approach this anymore. I've worked really, really long and hard on this colt, and on a lot of horses that didn't want to go to this side of the arena, and I have found that it is much easier to teach them to rest on that side of the arena than trying to force them to go to that side. So I asked him a couple more times there, and he's like, yep, nope, not going to do it. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll go to the other side of the arena where you want to be, and we'll work down here. That's no problem. We've got this side of the arena. We'll work in this spot. So oftentimes this looks really, really ugly, really disorganized, and it looks like we don't know what we're doing. And some of the biggest fear that we have when we ride our horses in public or when we put ourselves out on video or we share our videos is we don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing, right? And I try to tell people this all the time. I mean, it's gonna look really ugly at first. It's gonna be really, really messy. And a lot of the things with Shooter up to this point have been really messy. And, you know, fortunately, I have lots of experience in what the end result is supposed to look like, and I keep on riding him to what I feel the end result should look like, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and keep on riding him back the direction of that. But, you know, see how he gets sulky and he slows down and he won't stay straight and he won't let me steer him back over to that corner, and he's not really using that whole side of that arena. And let's face it, he's a 9-ride colt. He doesn't know how to do good circles yet. He doesn't know how to walk, trot, lope straight lines. I mean, that's been evident in every single other ride that we've had on him. I also don't want to turn this into a NASCAR event either. I don't want to go around this arena as fast as he possibly can go. You know, in some instances, there's a time and a place for working them really hard, and this isn't one of them. So I'm going to let him move out on the side that he wants to move out. We see him get sulky. He doesn't want to go all the way to that end. He's trying to shut down on me. I mean, if I wanted to use this to teach him how to stop, I probably could use it to teach him how to stop, but instead I get him loping again. And you know, he wants to scoot past. He wants to get past it as fast as he possibly can. And just trying to stay consistent, keep him moving forward, keep him moving out. Again, we're back to sulky again, break down to a trot, and this is the pattern that we have to go through. Sometimes they're spinning and going off the opposite direction, and that's fine. We've been through that with him before. It won't be the first time we've ever gone through this with him. You know, there are a lot of other experiences that Shooter has to go through, and I guarantee we're going to do that a lot in his future. So mostly what I'm trying to do is forward movement and change direction. We're riding him down at this point. And we want to ride him down with quality. This is why I say I don't want to quote unquote work him into the ground. I don't want to go around here as fast as I can like a NASCAR event. You know, again, so right there, he picks up the wrong lead. So this is what I'm saying, with quality. If he's going to go around here a certain direction, he has to pick up the correct lead to go that direction. He has to carry himself. He's not allowed to toss his head up in the air. I know we're seeing a lot of tail swishing. I've had a question in previous videos, why is Shooter swishing his tail so bad? And I will tell you guys, the flies are terrible here in South Dakota in the summertime. I mean, if I had known that the bugs were this bad, I probably wouldn't have moved here. But you could see as he goes past the other horses that are in the pens, just to the west of us there, that all of them are wearing some sort of fly sheet, and he wears a fly sheet himself. So anytime he wants to walk on this side of the arena, I'm going to give him that opportunity to walk and catch his breath. Let him know that this is the place to rest. I'm not going to pick at him. Here, I'm going to use that turn on the forehand to kind of kick his hip around and change directions. Again, anytime we can change directions, we're going to get improvement in temperament and disposition. And every time we go around, I'm trying to get a little bit closer to that side of the arena. And he wanted to take a lope there on his own, so I'm going to go ahead and let him lope out. And he's wanting to lope really calm and quiet here, and we will take it. We'll take whatever he gives us. Again, be consistent, be patient, and remember, he's just a colt. You know, this isn't going to last forever. This is going to go away. You know, he's not a mature... You know, this isn't a mature 10-year-old gelding that has the stamina of a wild Mustang. You know, this guy's going to play out. It just feels like it in the moment, like it's just never going to end. And I promise you, this stuff will go away if you remain consistent. And here again, you see that he doesn't know how to keep his body straight. I was taking my right rein and trying to get him closer, and so he was trotting off at an angle with his head cocked to one side, spooks at something there on the side of the arena and keeps going. You know, he's looking at these barrels that are tossed on the outside of the arena. That's one of the things that he's looking at here. It is super important that we ride and guide the entire time. We have got to have a solid leg on these colts. This is where our core comes in so handy. You know, strong core, strong legs, supporting these colts on both sides, helping them go forward and stay in between our legs. That's what's gonna help with their overall balance. And he decides to come into a walk on his own. Oh, and don't forget, it is really stinking hot too. I mean, we're like, I don't know, it's probably 90 degrees or so at least. So he's had groundwork. He's had work in the round pen. Now we're out here. It's a warm afternoon. The bugs are bad. So we're draining this colt a little bit physically and a little bit emotionally and mentally. And the key is to not drain him so much mentally and emotionally that, you know, he doesn't learn. And, you know, this colt physically has to be drained just a little bit for him to learn in every scenario, in every session. And so we don't want to take him past the point of no return. And you guys, you're only going to get that from experience. You know, I can't emphasize that enough. It takes a lot of colts and a lot of different opportunities with different pedigrees to know which ones you can work a little bit harder than the next. And it's an individual thing. Shooter is always going to take a little bit more mental, emotional, and physical work to teach him the lesson. And if he's willing to walk right there, if he feels comfortable enough to reach back and kind of bite at a fly or a bug that's bothering him, great. He's letting his guard down here just a little bit. This is all positive. You know, at least he's coming to this side of the arena for me. You know, he may not get all the way up into that corner, but it's going to come. I promise you guys, it's going to come. We just have to be consistent right here. And we want to make it a good experience on that side of the arena. I can't emphasize that enough. So as soon as he gets past that point, I go ahead and take a trot again. And I'm going to go ahead and work some circles over here. You know, he still knows how to do big circles if I hold them together, and we're going to use this side of the arena to work on some quality maneuvers and just ride him down just a little bit. The arena's a little bit deeper over here, and so that's going to make him work a little bit harder too. And having to deal with whatever else is going on is always a positive. I know a lot of folks, and even Becky 20 years ago, would have probably had a problem with riding a colt next to horses that were turned out in pens next door to the arena, just like they are now. But in my opinion, it's just all stuff that they have to get used to. We might as well get them used to it from the very beginning and make them deal with it, because if he can't ride in the arena next to a couple of other colts that are in pens next door to the arena, guess what? He's not going to be able to ride out in the pasture. And then there's a fence line in the pasture, and there's horses turned out on the other side of that fence line. So we got to deal with those situations right here and now. And again, he wants to walk and be quiet. And I would really like to let him go on a long, loose rein here, but I kind of have to keep my guard up. That's the frustrating part, is I want to really let those reins I just want to pitch the reins to him beyond the buckle. But because of how reactive he is, I'm kind of nervous about just pitching it to him, because if he decides to, you know, split and leave the country, I'm going to be grabbing at reins to bring him back. But we see him drop his head long and low. This is the first time he's dropped that pole lower than the withers. And if you remember from the very beginning, Shooter getting him to lower that neck and head lower than his withers and get that dopamine hit, it is hard to get him there. He is not an easy horse to get to that point. And once he finds it, he's more likely to go back to it. But it's tough to get him there. It doesn't come naturally to him, okay? So on this ride, usually by now I'm working a little bit more difficult maneuvers. But for him, in his case, with him struggling so much with a particular side of the arena, I am going to work really basic big circles where you go off the rail, come back on the rail. We use one side as a balance, and we just make the circles real big, gives them some work ethic, gives them a pattern. You know, this is what we're expecting of you. If you had some little tiny cones or something or buckets you could sit out there, it would be something that you could, you know, go around them, try to keep your circle even the entire way around. You know, now we're challenging his mind and emotional state a little bit more. He's having to hold himself together, keep an even cadence, keep his trot even, and then continue to work down that side of the arena and keep on doing this same exact maneuver. Really, really basic stuff here. So as we work our way to the corner of this arena that he's so scared of, I let him play game over and I let him go long and low. And now we're starting to see that I'm getting through to him, that he's starting to turn over emotionally and mentally to me and let me guide him a little bit more. We see a little bit of resistance here. I put a little more pressure on him now that he's a little bit more played out physically and we've been able to work through this. Now I'm kind of putting my foot down a little bit more and going, okay, come on, buddy, we got to get through this side of the arena. And he's still struggling in this corner, but as soon as he gets past this corner, look at what he does. He goes long and low, and I'm able to drop my hand, and the reins are able to go long and low. He's walking awfully fast, which I'll take. Whatever he wants to give me, but that head's got to be long and low and quiet, and we got to walk past this. And I'm able to relax in my seat a little bit. I'm not too worried anymore about him scooting and going off with me. And we're getting almost all the way over to the other corner of this arena. Now we see that we're starting to get this colt's mind right. This is where we see it. If we go, you know, if we rewind and go back to the beginning of this ride and where that head was and how he was carrying himself, and now he's starting to, you know, go long and low in that head and relax. He's pretty quiet about taking this lope. He's not zoomy. And I want to keep him loping all the way around. That is my goal. In these very first rides in the arena, they're very much get acquainted kind of rides. All you guys have to do, all I'm asking of them is let's go around in a walk, trot, and lope both directions. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're looking for you to have the gait, get acquainted. This is the arena. This is where you're going to be spending most of your career with me if we're not riding out. And this is what we're working on. And that's all I'm looking for is compliancy out of them. He went a little bit further that time, but he broke down to a trot on his own and then to a walk. And, you know, I'll take it. Look at that. I'm able to rub and pet on him. He even came to a stop on his own. But we see he's breathing pretty heavy there. I wish I would have written down how warm it was this particular day, because I deliberately tried to ride him in the warmer parts of the day because that kind of helps play old Shooter out just a little bit. And you know, in his career, he's not going to necessarily ride in the coolest part of the morning. You know, he's going to have to go out and make a run when it's, you know, pretty warm and nasty. So he's going to have to start preparing for this now. And you know, me as well. You know, I've got to ride when the, you know, conditions aren't ideal. Again, he's walking around real quietly right through here. I'm able to make a pretty decent circle and play game over with him right in this corner. I go ahead and let him walk a little bit more and play game over, but remember, we have to work the right side still. There's a time and a place where you might just quit on one side, and I wanted to work through his right side as well as his left side. So I go ahead and ask him to pick up the lope here to the right, and you can see he's thinking he was done. He was thinking he was starting to play out. We see him kind of give me a little crow hop, and he gets real sulky right here, and he doesn't really want to go forward, and then he's like, fine, okay, and he gets a little bit zoomy with me. But I get him to go past this side at a lope, no drama, no reaction. So we're getting there. It's improvement. Would you guys agree that this is improvement from the very beginning of our ride? You know, we got this colt that's picking up correct leads. He's loping around calm and quietly and using almost the entire arena. And we've got some really good moments of him going long and low here. Now, when we get up to this side, I'm going to go ahead and let him quit again and play game over here, because I know he's starting to play out, and I don't want to push him past the point of playing out, because then he's just going to get really irritable with me and resentful of what I'm working on here. So I want to just go long and low with my reins, and I'm just going to reach my hand down one rein, bend him back and forth, and get him to walk real quietly through here and try to make this a nice, safe spot for him, because this is ultimately what I'm going to do here. Here's a little secret. This is a spoiler alert. I'm going to dismount him over here on this side. But I have to get him in a good headspace before I can dismount him in this spot. And if we go back to when I work the gate, think back to the times I work the gate, and if you haven't seen me do a lot of gate work or the bridge work, I dismount and release pressure when they are in the exact spot that I want them to be in. And in these preliminary rides like this, it makes the biggest difference in their mental and emotional well-being on these colts. So if I can get him quiet, get him long and low with his head, and dismount him on this side that he's so scared of, because he's done. We've seen that he's mentally drained. He doesn't want to do this anymore. We saw that when we tried to lope him on the other side of the arena, and he started to crow hop with us, and he's sulking up. If I can get this colt quiet and relaxed, and get his feet to slow down, and get his head to lower below his withers, and then I dismount him over here, how do you think that's going to set me up for the next ride? It's going to put me in a golden place for our next ride. Because his remembering of this spot in his next ride is that he got to rest on this side, that I wasn't pulling on his face, I wasn't banging on him, I wasn't kicking on him, we weren't going fast. He just got to rest, and I eventually dismounted him over here. When I do this with other colts, they will lope directly to this spot and stop for me. It is the wildest thing. But you have to do it from day one. You have to be consistent from the very first time you do it. And they really begin to trust you and allow you to guide them into battle when you do things like this with him. So I get him real calm and quiet over here, and I'm going to kick my feet out of the stirrups and call it a day. And in the grand scheme of things, this ride was less than 30 minutes long. So think about what you could get done with your horse in a very short amount of time. So we've prepared him properly and consistently. He's standing here quietly. He's relaxing. Look at, he might be playing with some flies, but he goes long and low with that head. And he reaches down, and he's quiet, so I'm going to use that opportunity to step off of him, and boom, just like that. And he even lowers his head again once I get off. So I appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned for Ride 10 on Bonnys Six Shooter. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.